In a few instances, speed skates come unassembled from the manufacturer as well as the retailer. And this is done for a variety of reasons, but assembling these skates is pretty straightforward. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the boots onto the frames. This is better to do it this way as opposed to put all the wheels on first, because sometimes when you have larger wheels it'll be harder to access those mounting points on the frames. So it's better to do frames to boots first. And of course front and back on the frames, when you have a 2-point mount such as this, your backside is always going to end up being higher. So that's going to be where you're going to mount the back and the front. Some mounts are even. And some are 3-point even mounts. Rule of thumb when you're doing it though, just to make sure you put the printed side of the frame on the outside of the boot. So for instance, this being the outside of the boot where the buckle usually is, so that's how you're going to mount your frame, is with the printed section on the outside of the boot. So we're going to go ahead and do that using, of course, the supplied mounting bolts. What I do recommend when doing this is just to go ahead and hand tighten them down first. That way you're not going to go messing with the alignment underneath. Sometimes when you need to jam it in there like this and you're using the Allen wrench, you can slide it around and stuff. So it's really better to just hand tighten it. But if you have to, go ahead and use the Allen wrench, because sometimes they're really loose in there and it makes it hard to kind of get it down. So we're going to install it first here. And then a lot of times, like I was saying with the alignment in there, you kind of have to use the Allen wrench to move the receptor on the inside of the boot. So that helps to be able to use this. Put it down there, and then we're going to get this guy in there. And like I said, don't tighten the frame down yet, because as you can see the frame moves, and it does kind of help to keep it relatively loose at first, just until you get both bolts secure in there. And one thing I did want to mention too is on the boots that you usually get, they'll come with Loctite on them. It's that blue stuff there. So make sure you do use Loctite when you're mounting them, especially on the frame piece here. So at this point, you can go into lateral adjustment and frame alignment. Definitely check out one of our other learning centers about that for more information. I won't get into it here because it's a little intense. But we're just going to align these center real quick. It's always the best bet is if you're not used to frame alignment, just align them center, which is literally directly center of the mounting points on both the frame and the boot. You tighten it down, and so you have your first boot installed. So we're going to go on and get the other one done. All right, now that we have the frames on the boots, the next step is to get your wheels on. And the first thing you want to do there, obviously, is put the bearings and the spacers in the wheels. Now we have a couple videos on our website that regard this, so I definitely recommend going there to check out specific details. But just a quick run through on that, obviously, you're going to have 2 bearings per wheel, one on each side, and then a spacer that separates them. So it's pretty simple to do. Again, we have a couple videos on our Learning Center already to go over that, so I won't get into it in too much detail here, but it's basically that simple as putting the bearings in and a spacer between them. And now that you have all your bearings in your wheels and put together, you want to mount those onto the skate. Of course, that's going to involve using the skate axle. Here we have a one-sided one that's supplied, and of course, you want to use the skate tool that would usually be a number 10 Allen wrench. So we're going to start. I like to start on the ends, and I don't like to tighten them up all the way. In regard to putting the axles in, a lot of times it's pretty obvious where they go in and what side. You're going to have threading on either side of there, and as you can see here, I can't really put this in on this side. So with these one-sided, it's pretty easy to tell. When you have two-sided axles, it really doesn't make a big difference which side you put in terms of what's on the outside and the inside, as long as you're pretty consistent on it going across the skate. So like I said, I'm not going to tighten it all the way down, but I am going to do the outsides first. And the reason I do this is just because when you are tightening axles, it does pinch the outsides first. If you did the insides and try to tighten them too much, your outsides might get too wide, and so it just seems easier to do the outsides and go in, at least everything that I've had. And as you can see here, sometimes you need to kind of finagle it in, especially when it's wide. And it's not going to hurt anything. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't really make any difference on it. Any type of grinding or noises you may hear when you're putting them into the frame is literally just paint rubbing on paint. So it's not going to affect anything. Make sure that you just, like I said, you kind of finagle it in. So line them all up. And then one thing I do want to say too is sometimes with the wheels, the spacer on the inside will move around there. So if it helps to do so, you can kind of put it in halfway on one side, and then you can use the Allen wrench to kind of guide it and move the spacers you need to, so everything kind of slips through properly. But that's a rare occasion. Most of the time it's only on like double-sided axles, so shouldn't be anything to worry about when you're doing race skates like this. But of course then, once you got it going, you want to make sure to get it nice and tight on there. So we're just going to go ahead and tighten them all up. And believe it or not, that is it. Thanks for checking out our guide on assembling your skates. You can find out more information on other learning centers at our website, inlinewarehouse.com.